Hey, how's it going? It's Chris with the Beer Temple. I've got the May Beer Club picks right here in front of me. I'm about to taste through them. I am in the comforts of my own home. It is a balmy May day in Chicago. You heard that right. Quite hot. I am looking for a little bit of refreshments, and I think I've got a few here that are going to scratch that itch. Starting from my left, which would be your right, I've got the Hopewell Sharp. It's a Japanese dry lager, a classic, the Ayinger Maibock. We have a familiar face we're happy to see once again after a little bit of a hiatus, the Tuna from Acre out of Chicago. And finally, it's pretty heavy for the Chicago breweries. We have Goose Island's Kaleidoscope Cuvée. So we're going to taste through them and we'll see what we think about them. As I mentioned, it is hot, so I needed to start with what I think is going to be the most crisp and refreshing beer of the four beers that we have this month. That's the Hopewell Sharp. It, as I mentioned, is a Japanese dry lager. So if you're familiar with like the Asahi Super Dry, these just bone dry lagers that Japan is known for, they use an enzyme to just ferment out all those sugars and just get them basically as dry as they can get. I'm going to give my speed pour from a can right now to still try to get a little bit of foam on there. Not too shabby. This comes in right around 5%. It's a new one from Hopewell, and it's one that the folks at the shop have really had taken a shine to. They've really liked it, and multiple people have called it out. You can see brilliantly clear, very light golden, and I'm getting a little bit of an herbal hop character, a little bit of a green kind of brightness when I smell it. I stick my nose right in there, so pardon me for any moisture on my nose. Happens all the time, don't worry about it. And a little bit of a bready character, as would be expected. A light bread. You can tell from the color. It's going to have light malty aromas and flavors. You know, the color will never steer you wrong unless there's something like chocolate or fruit added to a beer. The color is always going to be indicative of the malt character you should expect. Man. So there are sipping beers and then there are gulping beers. We have some of each this month. I think they're both great. I like to have a variety and a wide range. When it is hot, and it's like 90 degrees out right now, and it's humid, it's about to storm, this is how I want to drink a beer. Do I always want to have a big, heavy beer? Absolutely not. Sometimes I want a very light lager. That does not mean that it cannot be a world-class, well-made beer. This Sharp, it goes down very easy. It has kind of a crackery, very almost like a water cracker malt body to it. A little bit of hop, very clean, no kind of fruity flavors or anything like that you might not want to have in a beer like this. And just a beer that you want to take in kind of larger sips. Very refreshing, very nice. A welcome addition to the Hopewell portfolio. I hope this one sticks around. And if you get it on draft, they do the Japanese Sharp Pour, which I'm assuming is what the beer is named after, which is where they kind of put some dense foam on the top of it, and I guess that's supposed to do something. But out of the can, it is quite nice, and one that I will finish off camera, and then I'll come back for the next beer. All right, on to beer number 2. The Sharp was delicious and nice and light and crisp, and it refreshed me, and I'm ready to step up to something a little bit bigger, something that is the beer for the season, quite literally, the Maibock, the Maibock, a classic kind of traditional lager for this time of year, out of Germany. This is Ayinger, and these beers are again going to be a pale lager. I say light lager, but I don't mean like Miller Lite, Coors Light. I don't mean light in terms of like calorie necessarily. I mean pale, light in color and in flavor relative to darker beers. This is the Maibock. I've got it in a Willy Becker. I'll go right down the center for this one. Give a little bit of a more traditional pour. Gonna be a heftier beer than the Sharp. This is coming in at 7% alcohol, and it's gonna have a little bit more of a fuller body, a little bit chewy. It's still gonna be pretty easy drinking, maybe dangerously so. This beer should be pretty easy going down. So I'm gonna let it kind of sit here and kind of drop down, get a nice full stable head, and then I'll fill it back up. We'll be right back when that's ready. Okay, as you can see, the foam has started to go down. Just takes a little bit of patience. Took me about maybe, 1 or 2 minutes. And now we'll top it off with just what's left in the bottle and fill it back up. This is about, I think it's like an 11.2 ounce bottle, and you've got like a 12-ounce glass, so it's not quite to the rim, but you've got really nice kind of foam there. You can see it's still a light beer, but it's a little bit more of a golden color versus that really pale straw color that you had in the Sharp. And as I said earlier, that will be reflected in the flavor. As the beer gets darker, it's going to take on more kind of toasted and eventually roasted flavors. So this has a little bit more of a biscuity flavor, very rich, beautiful malt character in this beer. Yeah, wow. What a beer. The absolute beautiful depth of malt that you get in these beers, in the best German lagers. Just kind of layered flavors of bread and honey and biscuit, while not being specifically sweet. I'm saying honey and biscuit and stuff like that. You might think that it's sweet, but there's enough of a bitter backbone to it, which you don't really perceive as bitterness per se. You perceive it in its ability to kind of counteract the sweetness that we perceive. And that's really what a lot of what hops do in beer. Sorry, as I scratch my back here. They dry the beer out, at least as we perceive it. So now we have the best of both worlds. We have this really big, well, not really big. We have a bigger pale lager with tons of depth of character in the malt, but it's still dry. It isn't cloying at all and very drinkable. Dangerously so, as I said earlier, 7%. So, we're not talking double digits here, but you could drink a couple half liters of these and not really think much of it until you stood up and kind of wobbled a bit. Wonderful beer. Maibock from Ayinger, one of my absolute favorites. If you have not had this one yet, hopefully you'll be trying this one, but get to try a few different Maibocks. I think my Maibock from Ayinger is at the top of my list. Okay, we are welcoming back Tuna from Acre, a beer that was one of our favorites at the Beer Temple. We used to do a couple old videos that we did with Tuna and how wonderfully it held up as long as you kept it nice and cold to preserve those hops. For those of you who may not know, keeping a beer cold preserves that hop aroma and flavor really, really well. If you have a beer, an IPA refrigerated, it's going to take almost like, you know, a year for it to degrade as much as it would in at room temperature at like 70, 75 degrees in just a few months. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Go look at the past videos that we did. It really is pretty remarkable. They stopped making the beer, the folks at Half Acre, for whatever reason, but it's back now, at least for a limited time. We actually are out of it at the Beer Temple currently. All we have is for this beer club, so if you're drinking it right now, good on you. Pouring it into a Spiegelau Tulip, which I think is a nice way to have this beer. And they used to call it an extra pale ale. Now they just call it a pale ale, I believe. And it certainly is that. It's under 5%. What does it say? 4.7. And as would be expected from a beer, a pale ale from Half Acre, it's all going to be about the hops. But before we get to that, you can see it's probably even a little bit more golden than the Maibock from Ayinger. And you're going to get a little bit more of that biscuity flavor, but really that's just there to help along the hops. And what you're smelling when you smell this beer, I don't know if feel free to be cracking one right now or later on. Whenever you are, it's when you smell it, that's the hops that you are smelling. For me, it's orange, kind of like an orange jelly. It doesn't have that kind of bitterness that like a marmalade would have, but like a sweet orange jelly. And that goes along with kind of that biscuity undertone. And even kind of more tropical than orange. You're starting to get into kind of like the mango flavor too. Wow. Big old hop punch there. You're getting a lot of those tropical fruits, almost a little bit of like cantaloupe, some melon as well. A lot going on from the hop aroma and flavor standpoint. A little bit bitter, enough to dry it out, but it isn't kind of a bracing bitterness. It's just enough. As I'm talking now, I'm noticing my mouth is drying out just ever so slightly more and more, and that's the hops and the bitterness slowly asserting itself on my palate, and that's nice. You know, right now, I'm not really tasting any of that malty sweetness. It's just kind of hop aroma and flavor that's lingering on there, and a pretty dry mouth. What do you do when your mouth is dry? You take another sip. Sorry for that kind of gulping, slurping sound. I don't know if my mic picked that up, but yeah, really nice. Almost gives me some of that like tropical lifesaver vibes to this one. This like candied tropical sweetness, but in the perception, it's a perception of candy. It certainly isn't like candy sweet or anything like that. Awesome beer. Really love Tuna. Glad to have it back. Last, but certainly not least, we have the Kaleidoscope from Goose Island. You may notice I've got my oversized snifter here. I'm at my house, and this is just the glassware. All of the glassware I've been drinking is just the glassware that I have, and the glassware that if I were at my house, I would be drinking these out of, am drinking them out of. You don't need to have a big snifter like this. Doesn't hurt. You can have a smaller snifter. Again, you know, apologies for any sort of glistening or dampness on my big bald head here, but it's humid, and it just is what it is. So it's humid, and I'm about to drink like a 15% beer. Whatever. I'm a professional. I do this for you. I sacrifice, you know. don't cry for me. I'll be fine. This beer is kind of the second iteration of their anniversary beer that they did last year. I might as well just pour the whole darn thing in there. And it's a cuvee of, boy, you name it. I think the beers themselves they're all barrel aged, and it's barley wine, imperial stout, and I think imperial oatmeal stout. Now, from that, you've got rum barrel age, bourbon barrel age, cognac barrel age, and maybe a bunch of other stuff too. It's a whole big bunch of stuff in there, blended differently from last year, and one that Max at the shop just really took a liking to and wanted to feature in here. You can see, I mean, boy, oh boy, looks a little bit different than all the other beers that we've had so far. Absolutely dark. I'm holding up to the light, and I can just at the very, very, very edges just see it. But this, at least in this light, it is black. I did say that it was, I think it's just under half barley wine, but it's a big dark beer. Lot of barrel character. You can smell the actual wood in this beer. You can smell like really dark chocolate, like baker's chocolate. I can smell spirit. I can smell alcohol in here. And almost like black, like molasses, like a dark, like char to it. Man, a lot going on. Like dark, like blackberry, dried blackberry. I don't know how many dried blackberries I've had, so I'm kind of inventing what I think that would be. All those things just kind of rolled up together, and almost like a little bit of licorice in there as well. Obviously red Twizzler, no, black licorice. Wow. My goodness. A lot of fruity character in here. This is an unfruited beer, and it has this intense, like, how do I even describe it? This like dark, black fruit chocolate character to it. Yeah. Tons of like caramel, burnt sugar, little vanilla. Just so much going on in this beer. I mentioned when I was drinking the Sharp that there are some beers that are sipping beers and some beers that are gulping beers. This is a sipping beer. This is a beer that you want to sit and sip on and have with you for a little while and really think about it. As I continue to drink through this glass, I know I'm just gonna continue to kind of have thoughts and flavors that kind of come to me. Really well done. Surprise, surprise, Goose Island, one of the absolute best barrel programs in the world. And they have so many barrels at their disposal that when they start mixing them together, they're bound to have something really special. And this is a great beer. Give it one more sip. Man, I love that kind of just intense, dark flavor to it. I wish I had better words to describe it, but hopefully when you're drinking it, you'll kind of come to know what I'm talking about. So there you have it. Those are the 4 beers that we have picked for you for May for the Beer Temple's Beer Club. If you're interested in signing up, we have a link for you. If you have any questions about the beer, please comment, and we'll try to get that stuff figured out or answered for you. I'll do my best. And until next month, so long. Thanks so much.